So the question everybody is asking today is, why did District Attorney Steve Cornwell decide that he is not going to seek re-election?
You know, I released that on Friday. I thought about it, you know, very seriously, and there are some other opportunities I want to pursue, and I decided that in order to do that, that I would have to resign my position. Not resign, sorry. Oh God, I'm going to make news, and I didn't mean to. I would have to not seek re-election. I'm going to finish my term, so that I can pursue other opportunities. I don't feel comfortable with politicians, you know, using their office or their position to advance their own political or personal goals. I never have. That's me, and that's how I truly believe. And you know, I was hired to do a job for 4 years, and really it was a mission for me, not a job or a career. And the goal, and why I've been driving so hard, and people have asked, you know, why don't you slow down? Why are you driving so hard? Because the goal was to do what I said I was going to do, what I promised voters I was going to do, make a change and rebuild the office and bring it into the 21st century. And we've done that, and we're seeing great things, and there are great programs in place. But I didn't see myself here 5 years from now. And so I wanted to make sure, first and foremost, that the office is taken care of, that the programs are in place, we maintain all the gains that we've made, you know, so when I walk out the door and hand over the keys, you know, I'm handing somebody, you know, great office that's going to continue to do great things for Broome County. But personally for me, I just wanted to finish my term and, you know, and move on.
How long had you been considering making this announcement, the announcement that you made public on Friday?
Probably about the second half of last year, you know, middle of the summer maybe. It's, you know, when I started to think about it, you know, but again, I just wanted to make sure that the numbers were good, that, you know, things were improving, that I did everything I said I was going to do. You know, we went down the checklist, you know, as we've been going. I want to make sure that everything I said I was going to do that I did, and obviously we did, you know, 10 times that, but you know, we've seen a lot of successes. The office is set up for the future, and it's strange for people, and I get that. And I can't tell you how many people, literally hundreds of people, were calling around to any friend or employee that they could to ask what was going on.
Well, because it did take quite a few people, probably most people, by surprise. Had you confided in many people? I'm guessing that you probably had not told too many people that you were considering doing this, because this is a small town, and things like that are unlikely to remain private for long.
No, I don't tell anybody. I make decisions myself. I debate them with myself, and then, you know, when it gets close to me pulling a trigger, then I rely on really just two people for their feedback. My wife obviously being one of them, and you know, a close advisor of mine. So, you know, and then I put it on the table for debate, but ultimately I make the decision, and I have to decide what I'm comfortable with. I've been always honest with the public, always honest with the media, honest with the people that work in my office. I want to keep that and be honest, and it's strange for people, because who would walk away from a job that pays $200,000 a year? It's a slam dunk re-election because you're extremely popular. And, you know, you can use that position if you wanted to run for something else next year or the year after. That is not me internally. So I've never been in this for the money. I've never been in it for power. I've never been in it for fame. I don't care about those things. And the people that know me understand this. They're listening. They're like, yep, that's Steve. You know, I don't care about those things. I don't worry about how I'm going to make money or pay the bills. I don't worry about what, you know, people think I should be doing. I do what I internally feel is right, and I sleep well at night because of it, and I don't have to worry about how things, you know, how things turn out. If you're honest with yourself, and, you know, I set high goals, obviously, and I think people always set their goals too low. But I just believe in being, you know, just internally honest and comfortable with what you're doing. But yes, I could see a lot of people, and some people are obviously, you know, people are disappointed, but they're happy for me. And I think, you know, obviously the next thing is they want to know what next.
So what next?
I haven't officially made my decision, but, you know, I'm looking at some options, and we're going to start moving towards moving towards those options. But first and foremost, I'm going to continue to work just as hard in my office today as I did on the first day, and this year as I did in the first year. We're going to see more results this year than any of the years because, we have a system in place now. Everything gets easier as your system gets in place. Your people, we grew the office and expanded it, and been able to train all of our people, and we have a new computer system that I put into place, so everything is paperless, and everything is running really, really well, and we're going to keep it going. So that's really what's next. But obviously, as far as career-wise, I have some decisions to make. I'm in a good place. I can be a lawyer. I can run businesses. I can be interested in public service. So there'll be something on that soon. The rumors are swirling. That's for sure.
But you say you have decisions to make, but at least, and obviously you're not going to reveal it here and now on the radio program, but do you at least generally have a plan in mind, even if you haven't made, say, a final decision to pull the trigger? I have a sense that you definitely do have, generally speaking, a roadmap ahead for the next couple of years.
You would know me well because I plan everything, and that's exactly what I call it. It's a roadmap, and that's what I did with the office. And I plan and I overplan, and and then I overplan some more and think of every variable that could or couldn't go wrong. So that I can think of at least. So yeah, I do have a plan for the next year or 2 years, and we're putting some things in motion to lay that foundation, the groundwork, to begin, what I expect to be a pretty interesting next chapter of my life.
Much of the speculation over the last few days has been about elective office. Obviously, as you say, you could go back to private practice if you want, but many people are concluding that because you defeated a veteran district attorney back in 2015, hard to believe it's been nearly 4 years, but you defeated Jerry Mullen, who had been in the job for decades, and as you say, you've done a lot of things as district attorney since you took office. A lot of people are assuming then that most likely you're probably going to run for something.
Definitely in the cards, but there's work to do before you do that, and you wouldn't just say, "Hey, I'm not running for re-election as DA." Oh, but by the way, I'm running for this. It wouldn't be well planned, well thought out, and quite honestly, I still feel like that's would be using your office on the same day when there's a story about you're not going to run. It's like you're using that to run, and if you decide to do that, these are things that have to be thought out and have to be planned, and people have to know what they're going to sacrifice and what they're going to give up. And public service is a huge sacrifice, but it's one you have to make, and that's what people maybe don't realize as much from the inside. But it should be a sacrifice. Like this should be a sacrifice for me, and it should be hard, to take away. You should work tirelessly when the people entrust you with a position. That's how I am. That's how I work. You don't think about how many hours you're working. You think about how much can I get done for the people, and that's the way I'm going to continue in the future. And I'm going to, if I choose public service and if the people will have me, then I'll work for the people. But you can't just predict. You can't say, "Hey, I'm a public servant. I want to start my new job now," right? You got to make sure that people want you to pursue that path and that they're going to support you. So I'm gonna, I'll continue to do that, and we'll definitely have more on that soon.
As in, what's the time frame that you envision? Again, you're not under oath here, so things change. But if things go as you would expect them to play out in the coming weeks,
I think there'll be more news, right around the corner, the next week or two, and then, and then we'll go from there. Like I said, I wish I could get into it more, but these things are it's very important to know what you're getting yourself into when you decide to change your life. Okay, and when I took this job, I didn't want it as a job or a career. When I say job, when I ran for this position, I honestly believed in my heart that I knew the office. I knew the office needed to change, and that I could make changes. And I knew that, at the time nobody was talking about the heroin epidemic, and it was driving me crazy. Really, I mean, there was no plan and in place, and that's obviously the main thing I came out with back then. But I just knew in my heart I could make a change, I could make a difference, I could do it quickly. I never doubted myself, and honestly, we've done exactly what I thought we would done. And I was on a 4-year plan. It's a 4-year job. You don't say, hey, it's I'll get it done, and then in 4 years just say, well, give me a little more time and I'll get it done. No, get the job done that you said that you were going to do. Do what you said that you were going to do, and that's what I, expect out of our public officials. That I always have my whole life. So you got to be ready if you're gonna, if you're gonna change your life. You better be ready to make a sacrifice, and that can mean a lot of things. But you're gonna go into it and not regret it. And I certainly have no regrets for running for DA, working, as DA, and I'm not going to have any regrets leaving because I'm comfortable with the decision. But it's the greatest job in the world, to this point. But I think I've accomplished my mission. I have the office ready to turn over, to my successor. And you'll hear more about that soon from my office. Obviously, someone in my office would be interested, but I'm not going to break any campaign news for somebody else's campaign here. And we'll be ready to go. And I'm going to take the talents that I have and the things that I've learned and continue on. Life is short, and if you feel like you could do good, and you have a calling to help other people, and I've always had that calling, help other people, then you got to pursue it. And someday I'll go make money or something, but we'll see.
Speaking with Broome County District Attorney Stephen Cornwell on News Radio 1290 WNBF, you mentioned about the heroin epidemic, problem of so many people here in Broome County who've been touched by this, and a lot of people who've died over the last few years. And people were dying dozens a year even before you took office. One of the things that I still remember is going back to August 2016 at that news conference where virtually every law enforcement official and the county executive and you as district attorney were in a conference room I believe up at the sheriff's office.
Yep.
In the town of Dickinson, and I asked a question. One of the simplest questions I thought I could ask, but it was relevant, was how many people have died so far this year because of heroin? And in a room with, I don't know if it was a couple of dozen law enforcement officials and county executive Preston, nobody knew. Nobody knew up to that point. I mean, people would say, well, it's complicated and we have estimates, but nobody could even attach a number. And shortly after that, you announced that your office would be specifically tracking the number of overdose deaths.
When you asked that question, it was a change for the county, and I'm glad you asked that question. And it became readily apparent that there was not a cohesive plan in the county to really combat the heroin epidemic. And I knew that the Department of Health records at that time had claimed about 30 overdose deaths, but I didn't think it was an appropriate place to go on the offensive against the prior administration, but it was something we were already obviously interested in, because how do you fight a problem when you don't know the extent of the problem? And that's what I said. So when I walked out of there, I said, we're going to take care of this ourselves. We're going to do this. And we began looking into it and conducted an investigation into overdose deaths in Broome County, and were able to literally go through the death certificates, and I would read the death certificates and get the ones that looked like obviously they were drug-related deaths, and then we continued further, met with the coroners on those, and now we have a system in place where we have an overdose death prosecutor, so we know in real time when there's an overdose death. So we didn't just count the numbers of deaths, which you should do to know the problem, but we act on it. So when we have drug dealers that are selling to people who die, then obviously we take that information and then they become targets of our prosecution, and we go after the people selling the more dangerous drugs that are killing people and being reckless. And so even though we're not prosecuting them because for homicide, which I think you should be able to, and we have that issue on appeal, in certain cases I think you should be able to do that. We direct our prosecution around the real bad guys, and the people that can get treatment, then we send them to treatment. So we just make that differentiation. But when you ask that question, it put the ball, on the court, and it really put things into motion. And I was glad you did, because quite honestly, people needed to see that, and it became an issue, and obviously it had become I guess a campaign issue that year. But it's an issue that needed to be addressed. If the government's not doing something that they're supposed to do, then they need to be called on it and asked, hey, can you do this? What is the problem? And that's what your public officials have to do. Nobody's perfect. We don't have an answer for everything or a program for everything, but you darn well better be trying and doing everything that you can. And listen to you get such good questions from media and from people on the street, good ideas. It makes you better. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to what they're asking for. And, if you don't have an answer, say, you know what, I don't have an answer right now, but I'm going to get you one. And if this is something we ought to be looking at, then we're going to look at it. Don't run from it. Those people just want to see that you're working to solve problems and working on their behalf. They're not expecting perfection out of their lawmakers and elected officials.
Looking at the numbers, and your office a few days ago released the preliminary numbers for heroin-related deaths or overdose deaths in 2018, and certainly the numbers over the last 3 years now suggest there is a trend that's going on.
The trend is going down, right?
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
substantially
Big
fewer
time.
confirmed heroin and opioid-related deaths in 2018 compared to the 2 previous years in Broome County. A substantial difference.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And the caseload corresponds to that for drug-related crimes, petty larcenies that go down, and the different drug-related crimes that change over the course. So we're seeing that those numbers match up. The calls for assistance for overdose. Everything is going down consistently together. And the key thing is, I point that out for the same reason we pointed out how bad it was, because you should know that everybody's making progress, right? All these programs, all these people, everybody that are working so hard for this, you should be able to look at it and say, hey, you know what? We're doing something. The rest of the country isn't seeing 60% drops in 2 years. It just ain't happening. 76 to 31 or 33. Depending on the last 2 are waiting, for toxicology reports on. I mean, that's not happening by and large in other places. I talked to the other DA's offices. We work with the Manhattan Special Narcotics prosecutors. We're seeing different trends that they're seeing, and we're also seeing different drugs in our area. Heroin is down. The supply of heroin is down. The demand for heroin is down. Obviously, those things, are going to correspond. So we get treatment for people, get them into treatment, get them off of drugs. That brings down the demand. If you punish dealers aggressively, then it's a less attractive place to be, because it's a deterrent to be here. And if there's already a deterrent to be here, meaning you're going to get stiffer sentences because of the way we work cases, and there's a lower demand, the suppliers aren't going to bring in the supply, to meet a lower demand when there's a higher punishment. It doesn't make business sense. So, the big things that we see now, is we got to keep doing what we're doing and get better at it, to keep refining what we're doing, redefining what we're doing, and make things better. Our big problem we're seeing is meth, and that's
something, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people over the last year or two, still in Broome County and in surrounding counties. It seems, this is only slightly exaggerated, but almost every block seems to have some sort of meth lab. Maybe not a big formal operation, but somebody in almost every neighborhood is making meth, and in a lot of cases there have been meth-related arrests. in some of our so-called better neighborhoods in Broome County.
Yeah, it really spread, and I think, if some people are changing their drug of choice from heroin to meth, some meth is easier in getting introduced. You can learn how to make it online. You do one pot method, they call it. So, we see those, but actually those seem to be decreasing now. We don't see the labs and the major cooks going on now. I mean, the majority of the meth comes in the mail. So that's something we need to address, and this is going to be a big focus of mine, because we have enough police agencies with canines that we could go through the post office, and we could find the drugs, and we actually have a tool that we can read what's inside of the package without opening the package. So we have these technologies now, but the trick is, how do we get the federal government to allow us to go in and search packages and take the packages that, there's a canine hit from a canine sniff, and then we use, after that, then we use the equipment that we have to see what's inside the package. Well, I mean, if it's drugs, then we take it and we open it, right? I mean, you only have so much privacy when you place a package in a common carrier. When you get in an airplane, you have check your luggage, somebody looked at it, right? You don't have the same expectation of privacy that you have with something in your nightstand. And so there's ways to do it, and they're just not being employed yet. So we're going to go down that road, but we get resistance, and you get resistance from different agencies, and we got to find ways to get around it or get people on board to do these simple things. I mean, the largest carrier of drugs in the United States is the Postal Service. I mean, come on.
It's shocking.
Yeah, let's do something about it.
We're talking with Broome County District Attorney Stephen Cornwell, who Friday announced he plans to serve his 4-year term through the end of this year, but is not seeking re-election as DA. Well, in the last less than 72 hours, there's been speculation that you're laying the groundwork for a congressional campaign.
We'll see what the near future has, but again, you have to lay the proper groundwork when you make decisions like that, and not go off on a whim. And I'm a planning guy, and that thing. But I promise to you and the people of this county that I am going to work so hard and finish this year out with everything that I have. We have programs coming that are phenomenal. We're going to get people back to work, and we're doing our own criminal justice reform here. We're going to take people, and instead of giving them a criminal record, get them a job. We got 1,100 jobs for unqualified people right now. We got a program to get people to work. I promise the people, just as I promised them, I would come in here and do what I said I was going to do. I will work until my last day as hard as I worked on my first day. And for anybody that knows me, that I work awfully hard, and I will keep it up. And I do it for no other reason than to keep my word to the voters of Broome County and be self, and do the best I can to make Broome County a safer place to live, safer in the future, because I really do believe that when we have safer streets, we have a brighter future ahead.
But you're not ruling out a run for Congress.
I'm not ruling anything out right now.
Has anybody approached you to ask that you consider running?
Well, I can't. I can't answer that. But again, I do things that I think are right for the people and me. And if I thought that was the right thing, and that people were willing to support me and wanted me to do that, then obviously I got to take a serious look at that, because I do want to serve, and I don't know if I'm ready to go, into the business sector right now, So let me get back to you on that and be more specific. But again, you have to plan things, and you have to make sure it's not about you. If I want to run, that's great, but I only want to run if the people want me to run, And do I think?
So does that mean if the people in Broome County want you to run for Congress, or maybe some people in Oneida County want you to run for Congress, that they should let you know?
If boy, you are something. You've been doing this too many years, man. I know that I could take the things that I've learned and take the programs that I've put into place here and spread them. And I want to spread them through the state. I want school resource officers in every school to protect and teach our kids, not to be some kind of, narc or something or arrest people. I want them there to protect them. I want drug treatment programs, to be available and work, with the criminal justice system, get them out of the criminal justice system, get people to work, make them, teach them. I always say this: you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him to fish, you feed him for life. And I like to fish, and I like to teach people to fish. So I want to give people the tools that they need to succeed in life. And remember, life, it's a long time. And if people, have had difficulties and they're struggling with addiction and other things, they have the rest of their life ahead of them. And those are the types of programs that we need to put in place, and not just these political games. It's not for the politicians, it's for the people.
Broome County District Attorney Stephen Cornwell. To be continued.
Yes, we'll talk to you soon.
I look forward to your next visit to Binghamton Now.
Thank you.